With Chris Hemsworth taking on the role of the God of Thunder, the number of people invested in Norse mythology and the family tree of Thor has expanded quite a lot. That is why in today's episode, we will be diving deeper into the family history of Thor, all portrayed to date in the Marvel comic universe. We will learn about his relatives from Earth 616 and every other alternate reality that there is. So, sit tight and enjoy the ride as we embark on this glorious journey into Thor's family. But before we get into our explanation, we do just have one very small request. If you like our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is just one small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thanks! Now, let's begin. Buri, great-grandfather. The best place to begin a family tree would be from the first man that we can trace. In the case of Thor, that would be Buri. Buri is Thor's great-grandfather. He is the firstborn of two of the tribes of the Asgardians, known as the Aesir. The Aesir were worshipped as gods by the Vikings and Germanic tribes present in Northern Europe. If we look to Norse lore, we would learn that Buri was actually the third entity that was found in Niflheim, after Ymir the Giant and Adumbla, the cow. There are a variety of legends when it comes to his creation, but it is known that he came out of the ice. Some say it was because his cow licked the ice that led to him coming out. On the other hand, some say that he came out of the ice on his own. Either way, when he was found by the giants, they were intrigued and they let him live. He grew up to be a strong warrior, and he married a frost giantess. Together, they had 3 children, Bor, Mimir, and Njord. He has powers similar to any Asgardian god. He has superhuman strength, allowing him to lift 100 tons with ease. He has superhuman durability and immortality as well, along with a vast expanse of mythical powers that he can control with ease. He is powerful enough to make Hela shudder at the thought of it. Bor Burinsson, grandfather. Following Buri, Bor ascended the throne. Bor Burinsson is Thor's grandfather. He was an extremely strong warrior, and he led his people into posterity. He was respected by his people for his leadership skills and his triumphs on the battlefield. He was also an extremely well-respected god. He was one of the many gods who created the universe. He honed the powers of the Galactus Seed, a cosmic power that led to the creation of the universe. He was an extremely capable warrior, and he took Bestla as his wife. She gave him 4 sons, namely Kull, Vili, Ve, and Odin. He always favored and nurtured Odin to make him a proper successor, but while doing so, Bor didn't allow Odin to be his own person and have his own dreams. This inevitably led to Odin going against his father. Legends say that the horrors humanity faces are because of Bor. Odin's creation of man was something that Bor just didn't support, and as he couldn't get rid of humanity, he chose to bestow horrors upon them. Bor is one of the ancient Asgardian gods, so he has Asgardian physiology. He has superhuman strength that allows him to take blow after blow from Odin, force Thor, and gain the upper hand a few times. He has superhuman durability and stamina as well. His metabolism gives him regeneration powers, but he can also be injured. Bor also has Allspeak, an ability that allows him to speak in every language present in the 9 realms, including Earth and even a few alien dialects as well. Bestla, grandmother. Whether you follow the movies about Thor or the comics, in both, we see that the biggest enemy of the Asgardians has always been the frost giants. We know that frost giants were ruled by Laufey, who was later slaughtered by Odin. This makes you think that the Asgardians and the frost giants were always at each other's throats, but that's quite simply not the case. Turns out, Thor's grandmother, Bestla, was a frost giantess herself. Bestla, or Bestia, was the daughter of Bolthorn. She married Bor and mothered Odin and his brothers. When it comes to her powers, we don't get to see her a lot in the comics. Her powers and abilities are not explored that much. However, we do know that she is a frost giant, so it goes without saying that she has superhuman strength. Perhaps not as strong as the Asgardian gods, but she is just as strong as most frost giants are. Odin Borson, father. Okay, let's talk about Odin now. Odin, as we all know, is Thor's father. Odin is also the king of Asgard. He got the title of Allfather, as most known Norse gods are either his children or like his children. Odin brought about a lot of changes since he ascended the throne. Odin and his 2 brothers, Vili and Ve, fought against Ymir. From his dead body, they constructed the cosmos that we all know of. They laid the foundation for the Asgard that we know today. Odin was the one who fought against the god Tempest, the very powerful cosmic storm. He not only fought against it, but he won. and sealed it away in a chunk of Uru. This Uru is later forged into the Mjolnir, the very weapon that we see Thor use all the time. Odin was worshipped by the Vikings of Midgard as the god of wisdom, and he was considered the wisest and most powerful god. He is also part of the Council of Godheads and has fought for the safety of the Pantheons of Earth. Odin had fathered many children, Thor and Hela being the more popular ones, and we cannot forget about how Odin took in Loki Laufeyson when he found the child abandoned while he fought and defeated Laufey in the Battle of Jotunheim. Odin is an extremely powerful god. His Asgardian physiology allows him to have superhuman strength, superhuman stamina, durability, and agility. He is almost immortal, as we do know that Asgardians do die. However, his aging process is so slow that you can simply consider him as near immortal. But one of the most fascinating powers that Odin has is his Odin Force. Odin is able to manipulate and control vast amounts of magical energy. This power is extremely multifaceted. With this power, Odin can easily shield a city against anything, transport the whole of humanity into an alternate universe, and even cast enemies into deep space without any worry. Odin's power is so vast that he is almost comparable to the powers that Galactus has. In fact, Odin is able to render a hungry Galactus unconscious with ease. This Odin Force also allows him to place enchantments on any object, but they cannot be removed or cancelled by anyone except for him.
During this time, the borders between worlds become blurred.
Gaia. Gaia is known as the mother goddess in a lot of places. She is the birth mother of Thor. Originally, Gaia is one of the elder gods. They came into being out of nowhere on Earth before there was any life on Earth. She and her brother Chthon together controlled and manipulated the land masses and geological systems present on Earth. The elder gods soon met their demise when they started eating one another, following the example of Set, rendering everyone except Gaia a demon. Gaia then gave birth to her son Adam, who got rid of all the demons except Set and Chthon, who escaped. Once the Earth didn't have any more demons, Gaia merged with Earth itself and decided to guide evolution. When the second generation of gods came into being, Gaia mated with many of them, which earned her the title of Mother Goddess. Odin was one of them. Under the guise of Jord, Gaia mated with Odin, who was looking to have a son who would be as strong as Earth. That is how Thor came into being. The identity of Gaia was hidden from Thor for years, until Gaia revealed it to him herself. Gaia has great mystical powers that simply cannot be explained. Any magic and natural power is under Gaia's control, as long as they pertain to Earth. She can manipulate nature, absorb energy from Earth, has healing abilities to cure any suffering animal on Earth, and when called upon, Gaia can bestow powers on those who reach out to her. Gaia has something known as the Eye of the Beholder. This allows her to take any humanoid form that the group that worshipped her would accept. Usually, Gaia is seen to have black hair and blue eyes, but when she is under the guise of Jord, she has long blonde locks and blue eyes. Freya, stepmother. As Gaia never stepped up to the role of being a mother figure to Thor, someone else did. It was Freya, or Frigga, the daughter of Freyr, the Vanir leader. Aesir and Vanir were two tribes, and while Aesir was quite established in itself, Odin wanted to unite the two tribes together. Freyr went to war against Odin, and this lasted for years. Finally, the marriage of Freya and Odin was done as an act of truce to establish the Asgardians. Freya was considered the goddess of marriage after they got together, but for their wedding to be valid, they first had to have a child. The firstborn is Aldrich. When asked to raise Thor and Loki, Freya did her duty diligently. As a mother figure, she left her impact on Thor quite well. Later, we see Freya, Gaia, and Idun form the All-Mothers, which was quite significant in the later stories of the comics. Freya was quite powerful, much like any Asgardian. She had superhuman abilities, strength, stamina, agility, durability, and healing. But what truly set her apart was her ability to wield magic. Freya was actually able to cast spells. She used spells to protect Baldur, and using these spells, Freya traveled between dimensions, like Earth and Asgard with ease. Angela, Aldrich, Odin's daughter, half-sister. Aldrich, better known as Angela, is Thor's half-sister. Her birth played quite a role in the history of Asgard. As we mentioned before, Freya was from Vanir, and Odin was from Aesir. Their marriage would only be valid if they produced an heir. Aldrich was that heir. She was the heir to the throne, marking the validity of Odin's marriage with Freya. Now, when Heaven waged war against Asgard, the Queen of Angels kidnapped Aldrich. Using Aldrich as the bargaining chip, the Queen expected Odin to surrender. When he refused, the Queen seemingly killed Aldrich. This led to Odin using his power to cut Heaven from the rest of the 9 realms. But this whole time, Aldrich was all alone. The Queen's handmaiden, L'Oreal, was asked to get rid of the seemingly dead Aldrich, but when L'Oreal saw that the child was alive, she instead raised her as one of the angels and gave her the name of Angela. Angela grew up as one of the angels, leading her to believe that Asgardians were her enemies. So when she found out the truth about herself and her lineage, she just simply couldn't accept it. She was in a fight with Thor, who was about to kill her. When Odin came to stop the fight, he offered her to join him, but Angela refused. Angela never accepted her for being different from them, and being in Asgard was something that she simply didn't want to do. So, instead, she chose to explore the different realms. She has Allspeak, which helps her communicate in several languages present on Earth, and also in alien dialects. She is said to be extremely fast, faster than Disir, who is faster than the speed of lightning. Also, Angela is able to fly in a vacuum, which is a power that we see her use quite a few times in the comics. Her Asgardian physiology makes her superhuman abilities very diverse. Laufey Odinstottir, half-sister. Laufey is the second half-sister of Thor, as the tribes of Vanir and Aesir were still not happy with the marriage between Odin and Freya. They had to have an heir son. As Aldrich was kidnapped and seemingly killed, they were in need of another heir, and that was Laufey. Odin and Freya lay together between the realms, and that was where Laufey was conceived. However, the space between the realms was also the place where Odin had disposed of the essence of Surtur. Because of that, Surtur was the third parent of Laufey. This led to Angela, Laufey's older sister, to kidnap her, to take her to heaven, and save everything from being burnt. While Angela did her best to get rid of Surtur's powers from Laufey, the powers ultimately grew inside her. Even as a baby, she had the ability to use fire according to her wishes, making her the youngest pyrokinetic ever. She also has the ability to shapeshift and possess subconscious inducement.
Hail, Thor Odinson.
Hail, Balder the Brave.
Balder the Brave, half-brother. Balder is the half-brother of Thor. He is the son of Odin and Freya. When he was born, it was prophesied that his death would lead to Ragnarok taking place. Not wanting that to happen, Odin asked Freya to make Balder invulnerable. Before he was granted this invulnerability, however, Odin accused Balder of treason when he deserted a fight and asked his brothers, Tyr and Honir, to throw lances and shoot arrows at Balder. Balder didn't flinch, which made Odin realize that he was truly the bravest of them all. Freya made him invulnerable to everything except mistletoe. This was something that Loki had learned of and used against Balder. Loki tricked blind god Hodder into shooting at Baldur with a mistletoe wood, and while Odin brought him back to life, the experience Baldur had in Hell had changed him completely. Baldur is a very close friend to Thor, and his ability to sense danger is so strong that even though he was in Asgard, he could sense it every time Thor was in danger on Earth. Baldur is also able to talk to animals. Baldur is the Asgardian god of light, so he can conjure light beams that are so bright and hot that he can use them as weapons, making him quite the opponent to go up against. Hermod Odinson, half-brother. Hermod is another half-brother of Thor. He is the god of speed. Owing to his high speed, we often see Hermod used as a messenger by Odin. He was the one who went to Hela to figure out a way to revive his brother Baldur from death. Despite being a younger brother, Hermod has every power that a typical Asgardian has, with superhuman agility, superhuman strength, and superhuman metabolism. His durability was quite high, and owing to this metabolism, his healing abilities were quite the sight to behold. Vidar Odinson. Vidar was yet another half-brother of Thor. He was the son of Odin and the storm giantess Grid. When Odin and Freya got married, Vidar was banished from Asgard. He never returned to the city, except for one time when he was grief-stricken from the death of his wife. While Thor was traveling through Asgard after Ragnarok, he came across Vidar's field, where Vidar was found dead fighting trolls. Thor asked for a funeral pyre for his fallen brother. Now, as Vidar was half a giant, he was taller than Asgardians. Other than that, his physiology and his powers were very similar to that of other Asgardian gods that we've met so far. He was extremely good at hand-to-hand combat. His weapons of choice were a sword and a staff. Tyr Odinson, half-brother. Tyr is yet another one of Thor's half-brothers. He is the eldest son that Odin and Freya had right after the birth of Aldrich. He is considered the god of war and of heroic glory in Asgard. When Thor was born, he replaced Tyr as the defender of Asgard. This led to Tyr pulling himself away from Asgard. He only ever showed up when Asgard was in danger. This led to him being symbolic of a war that is coming and the glory that usually comes along with it. He rebelled against Odin for his preference towards Thor, but eventually he accepted Thor for who he truly was, and when he made peace with it, he was welcomed back to Asgard. Tyr lost his hands to Fenris the wolf. This allowed him to manifest his soul from where his hands used to be. Using this, Tyr can manifest any weapon at will. This unique ability of his set Tyr aside from the rest of the Asgardian gods. Honir the Hunter, half-brother. Honir is the brother of Balder the Brave. This makes him kind of a half-brother to Thor, but there's not really been much mention of him, or if he even is the son of Odin and Freya. He is an excellent spear thrower though. We have seen him when Balder is being accused of treason for leaving mid-battle to help pick up a bird that had fallen from its nest. Before Honir's spear touched Balder, Odin used a plant to suddenly sprout out from the earth and divert the spear, as this was just simply a test to see Balder's bravery. When Jane Foster learned about Thor's real identity, Odin removed Thor's powers. But when Thor was attacked by the Grey Gargoyle, Honir went to restore Thor's powers. Loki Laufeyson. Loki Laufeyson, the god of mischief and the most famous adopted brother of Thor. We see him in the MCU as a villain, who later gets reformed into a hero. Loki is the son of Queen Farbauti and King Laufey. He was quite small in size, considering that his father was a giant. This led to Loki being segregated from the giants. Future Loki used magic to go back in time and turn Bor into snow. Taking his place, Loki haunted Odin for years. Then, he told Odin that he should adopt the son of a fallen king, because that would repay his debt. Once he put the idea in Odin's head, the future Loki met with the child Loki and told him how he would become a god. This led to the present Loki causing his father to charge into war, trying to kill the Allfather. Odin won the war, and that is where he found Loki, whom he adopted. Using trickery and magic, Loki made his way into Asgard. Growing up, Loki despised how everyone preferred Thor over him and cast Loki aside, even though Loki excelled in his own fields. This led to years of fights between the two brothers that we get to watch with Tom Hiddleston playing the titular Loki on screen. One thing that sets Loki apart from his fellow Asgardian gods is his control over magical powers. He is able to perform telekinesis and psionics, and he can even create extremely strong force fields. Kid Loki, reincarnated adoptive brother. Loki had died at one point. That was because of the Void. Loki decided to manipulate Norman Osborn into attacking Asgard, thinking that it would help Loki return Asgard to its proper place, but he had grossly underestimated the powers of the Sentry. The Sentry had turned into the Void and subsequently destroyed Asgard. Seeing Asgard get destroyed made Loki realize how far his plan had gotten out of hand, and this led to him sacrificing himself. But his death was not permanent. He manipulated him into removing his name from the Book of Hell, which allowed Loki to be born in Paris. Thor, who was still grieving over the loss of his brother, was very shocked to see this kid Loki in Paris, living under the name of Surur. Initially, he thought that Thor was just a crazy man, but when Thor gave him back some of his memories, he started believing him again. This kid version was brought into Asgard with the help of Thor, who was hopeful that his little brother had changed. But deep down, the distrust stayed, because Thor went off on Loki the first time he showed any signs of trickery, even though Loki had actually hid the World Heart to save Asgard, Midgard, and Thor himself. When Loki was given a chance to meet his past self, instead of accepting that self, he turned it into Eikol and made him his companion. This Loki, while young, also has the same abilities as his older version. Loki Laufeyson, Eikol, reincarnated adoptive brother. As we know, Eikol is the consciousness of the Loki who died, and there's only one way that this consciousness can take over the vessel, and that is the kid Loki. Eikol was not very happy with how his reincarnated version wanted to be the complete opposite, but despite that, he stayed his companion. While kid Loki did several adventures to gain the trust of everyone around him, he unintentionally set the plans that previous Loki had set into motion. While helping Damon Hellstrom help save people from Nightmare, the younger trickster gave him his own fear clot. Using all the fear clots, the fear crown was made. The existence of this fear crown reached Mephisto, who planned on using this crown to become the next Satan on Earth. When Mephisto took the crown, Eikol told Kid Loki how he could stop this from happening. Turns out, the fear clots that Kid Loki gave was the one that was used to make the crown. So if Kid Loki let Eikol take over his mind, the crown would be destroyed. While the young Loki gave in to his fate, he triumphantly rejoiced at the fact that he had won. While Eikol didn't want to change, Kid Loki had brought about changes, and Eikol himself had accepted that. This led to the birth of the Loki, the newly reformed hero. This version of Loki struck a deal with Now and Then, allowing him to fabricate any story as he deems fit. Whatever he says will become the truth, allowing Loki to change the past to his liking, setting his Loki apart. Woden Thorson, son. Well, so far, we have followed characters in Earth 616, it is time for us to expand beyond Earth 616. On Earth 691, we have Woden. He is the son of Thor and Sif. In this timeline, Sif gave up her dreams and settled down to be a homemaker, but that didn't exactly stop Thor from his adventures. As his father was never present, Woden ended up growing into a bully. He was a broody teenager, and Sif informed Odin about it, who made sure that Thor stayed home and did his fatherly duties. This led to Thor and Woden spending some time together, and while that did lead to Woden releasing some of his heritage and how proud he should be, it also brought up Thor's past trauma. Seeing his father like this frustrated Woden, and he left home. He was only seen back in Asgard when Loki came to attack Asgard. This time, the three generations, Odin, Thor, and Woden, together banished Loki and his army to the Black Canyon. Woden had similar powers to his father, and has even been seen wielding Mjolnir. Brigid Thorsdottir, daughter. On Earth 20368, Thor had a daughter named Brigid. In this timeline, Earth is scorched during the cataclysm, and there are several amounts of radiation on the surface. Captain Marvel was even sacrificed to restart the sun and save the survivors. While Brigid is the daughter of Thor, she is unable to pick up Mjolnir, so she decided to become a blacksmith instead, while living in the underground colonies. When Captain Marvel dropped by, she scouted Brigid to accompany her while she traveled to the Oves territory. While in this territory, everyone is attacked by monsters. Being swarmed by monsters, Brigid called out for Mjolnir, who responded to her and gave her the powers of Thor, which she used to defeat the monsters. As Brigid is not a Norse goddess, it is still interesting that her name is a reference to the Irish goddess of smithing. Thena Thorsdottir. In Earth 982, Thena is the daughter of Thor. In her timeline, Galactus has destroyed Asgard. While her father and grandfather started building Asgard back from scratch, Thena was also out there trying to locate Selene, her cousin, who was the daughter of Loki. Thena was also on Earth, trying to help Thunderstrike to get his power back, and she was attacked by the Nova and Earth Sentry, who thought she was an enemy. After ending up in Manhattan, Thena decided to help the Avengers on their mission to find Masterson, who was kidnapped by Selene, but they fell for Selene in disguise, who fooled them and took them to her volcanic lair, where she threw Thena into a pool of mystic powers, along with J2. However, the pool helped J2, who in turn rescued Thena. J2 destroyed the pool, which reversed the spell that Selene had cast, and Thena returned to Masterson with powers. They were able to restore Thunderstrike, who was able to defeat Selene with ease. Thena has every power that an Asgardian does, owing to her physiology, but as a special power that she has up her sleeve, Thena is also able to conjure up violent storms out of seemingly nowhere at all. Modi Thorson, son. In the parallel universe of Earth 1610, Thor had to travel to Valhalla to retrieve the soul of Valkyrie, but Hela was not going to let her soul be taken so easily. So, she asked him to defeat her and her army in exchange. The fight happened. Thor won, and Valkyrie was revived, but Hela didn't let Thor go back to Earth so easily. She instead asked for another price. This time, it was going to be a child. Thor relented to her proposition, but the vision of Thor and him lying together reached Valkyrie, which understandably broke her heart. Thor wanted to get back to Earth, but Hela asked for yet another price. Thor had enough of her and tried to kill her, but he just simply couldn't. And that is how Modi Thorson was born. He was brought into Asgard by Loki, who found a young boy in Valhalla, claiming that he had no one to play with. Modi was locked into the room without doors when the children of tomorrow invaded Asgard. Although it was mere days for Modi, it was years in the room, and soon he burst out as an adult. Taking the name Mr. Morez, Modi made his way back to Earth, trying to start a civil war. He got his hands on the Mind Stone, and using that, he tried to bend his father to his will. However, Captain America was able to sever this connection between Modi and the Mind Stone, setting him free. This allowed Thor to strike down on Modi, effectively killing him. Magni Thorson, son. Set on Earth 3515, Magni is the son of Thor and Lady Sif. In this alternate timeline, Magni was born 2 decades after the Asgardians took control of the Earth. Since childhood, Magni's life has been tough. When he was just a child, he got kidnapped by Balder as a sign of revolt against the heroes still remaining on Earth. His father put an end to the heroes, as well as his uncle Lodi, who killed Balder. As Magni grew up, he was a free-spirited young man, and he grew to dislike the way that Loki had treated everyone. Magni wanted to follow in his father's footsteps, and when he witnessed the cruel brutality of Asgardians, his ideas solidified. Magni set forth the motions of revolution in this timeline, eventually leading to Thor realizing his mistakes, forcing him to go back in time and fix them. As Magni is definitely an Asgardian, his physiology is very similar to that of his father, with superhuman strength, agility, endurance, and durability. His power is pretty comparable to his father's younger days. Balder Blake, son, set in Earth 9811. In this timeline, we have Balder Blake as Thor's child. He is the son of Thor and Enchantress. Blake has been trying to pick up Mjolnir for 3 consecutive days without being able to lift it. However, his friend Crusader was able to lift it. Although he was hesitant at first, the Crusader later accepted the Mjolnir and used it to teleport Blake and their other friends through the portal. Blake had been wanting to go to Earth to thwart the ideas that his younger brother Malefactor had about conquering it. But when they ended up on Earth, the young kids saw the Earth swarming with Sentinels. Deciding to do what's right, the kids stayed back on Earth as its very own Avengers. As he is also the son of Enchantress, Balder is able to cast spells and do sorcery. While he is good, he's not exactly better than his half-brother Malefactor yet. Other than that, he has the abilities that his Asgardian physiology would allow him to have, such as longevity, endurance, strength, and whatnot. Goddesses of Thunder, granddaughters. Despite having so many kids, only in one parallel universe do we get to see Thor's grandchildren. Set on Earth 4412, we get to meet the Goddesses of Thunder. They are Thor's granddaughters, but from the future. They traveled back in time to help their grandfather defeat the god Butcher, as well as the future version of Galactus. In this timeline, Thor sacrificed himself to restore the universe, and his granddaughters became part of the Avengers. In this team, we have 3 of his granddaughters, Atili, Elsive, and Frigg, an apparent Gamma mutant, and a Phoenix-powered Wolverine. As his granddaughters are Asgardians, we get to see them showcase superhuman abilities, just like their grandfather, clearly showing us why they're called the Goddesses of Thunder. Marvelous verdict. Thor comes from a long line of heroes, and it's clear that his family played quite a role on him becoming the way he is today. His lineage, heritage, and history play a huge role in his character, and we certainly hope that with this in-depth dive into his family tree, we're also able to give you a glimpse of who affected Thor's character and in what ways they did so. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. Until next time, have a good one and be safe.